Morning class, we're going to go over 4.1, congruent triangles. So congruent triangles have the same size and the same shape. Congruent polygons have congruent corresponding parts. And then lastly, so we're going to list corresponding vertices in the same order. So here's an example. We want to go through, they say triangle TJD, so TJD, so we go same part. So we go RCF, are congruent. So what parts correspond then? If they're congruent, then their parts will be, the whole thing's equal, and each little part will be equal. So we'd say angle T is equal to what angle over here? Well, it will equal angle R. Angle J, right here, should equal, oops, there we go, should equal R. J should equal C. And then lastly, D should then equal F over there. All right, one way to also to check, see, T and R in the same position, J and C, same position, D and F are in the same position. So that's another way that you can, how you can state they're equal. Then we want to go, okay, what sides, corresponding sides, which are also congruent. TJ, so if you look right here, T to J, we'd say R to C. JD, so J to D would give us, so J to D would give us C to F. And then lastly, we would go TD, T to D is equal to R to F. Okay? So angles need to be corresponding as we look at it. So we want to decide if the triangles are congruent. So if the triangles are congruent, then all their parts will be congruent. So we're checking to see, are all the sides and angles congruent to one another? So if you come through here, if you look at this side, B to A, E to D, are these congruent? That's 3, so yeah, that's congruent. Then we can check side A to C, is that congruent to E to C? Well, yeah, how do I know? It gives it to us. Then we have angle 4, or this side, B to C is equal to D to C. Yep, they're congruent because they both have 4. Right? They tell us that angle A and E are equal, so this angle is equal to this angle, so that's good. So we got all sides. We have one angle. B and D are equal because they're both 90 degrees, so that's another one too. So then how can I conclude that BCA, this angle here, is equal to this angle here, ECD? Well, those are vertical angles, so they're congruent. So we can conclude that all of them are congruent based upon the information given to us. So that's what you're looking at, is each corresponding part congruent. Then you would list it out. You give your reasons for why you did. So all the stuff that I had said is given to us, so we go from there. All right, can we conclude that triangle JKL is equal to MNL, given what we know? So, if you look at this, we know this side and this side are congruent, but do I know that this side over here is congruent to this side? No. So, if I look at it, I'm given my angles are congruent, J and M are congruent, K and N are congruent, and I have vertical angles, so all my angles are congruent, but can I conclude? Well, no, because we don't know our sides. We don't know that this side is equal to this side. All right, if two angles of a triangle are congruent to two angles of another, then the third angle is congruent. So if we know two angles are congruent, then the third angle will be congruent as well. So this is a theorem to go through. So we want to say, given AC, A is equal to D, so given A is equal to D, we know that these are right angles, so then therefore we could conclude that angle C and angle F are congruent. So if we know two angles, then we can conclude the third angle. Alright, so let's go through this. Use the information in the diagram, give a reason why each statement is true. So, we go through here. How do I know that Q to P and S to B are equal, and QR and S are? So how do I know Q to P is equal to P to S, and Q to R is equal to S to R? How do I know that that's true? Well, what do we have here? Those are congruent markings. So we'd say it's given to us. How do I know that PR is equal to PR? That's the next one. Well, if you look at it, PR and PR, they're the same. It's the same line. So it's a common side, they share a common side, but that's really our reflexive property at play. PR equals PR. Next, how do I know that angle Q is equal to angle S? So this angle is equal to this angle. How do I know that QRP is equal to SPR? Is that right? SPR. How do I know that's true? Well, angle QPR is equal to angle SPR. And angle Q is equal to angle S. So that's given to us as well. So then, how do I know that the other angle is congruent? QRP, and SRP. How do I know that's true? Well, that would be the theorem we just went over. All right, theorem 4.1. If two angles are congruent, then the third angle is congruent. So therefore, we can conclude that the two triangles are congruent because all corresponding parts are congruent. So therefore, the whole thing is congruent. Right? Last one. Show how not last one. Along these lines, show how you can conclude that the triangles are congruent. Well, again, we need to show all the sides are congruent, or all corresponding parts are congruent. So let's start out with our sides. We can go AB is equal to DF because it's given to us. It gives us a congruent markings. We could say angle AC or side AC is equal to side EC because it's given to us. And we could say BC is equal to DC because it's given to us. So first thing we go through is just all the stuff that's given to us. I know all those sides are congruent. I also know that angle A is equal to angle E and B is equal to D. Why? Because it's given to us. So I go through and state that as well. So then my last thing, how do I know this angle right here, okay, DCE and BCA, how do I know those two angles are congruent? Well, you could say theorem 4.1, or you could say those are vertical angles. Either way would work, because I know two angles are congruent, therefore the third angle would be congruent, or they cross, so that's vertical angles. You're going to see we're going to use vertical angles a lot as we go forward. Last example. All right, we want to solve for x, given that these two triangles are congruent. So given the triangles are congruent, it'll either say, it could say triangle ABC is equal to WXZ, or it could just say like this. So these triangles are congruent, so therefore each part, corresponding part. So angle B would equal angle X. Well, what's angle B actually equal to? Angle B is 6x, angle X is 30. So we'd set them equal to one another, divide by 6, and X is equal to 5. So that's that's congruent triangles, going through and proving that they're true. That's the next step as we go through. But just understand, if all their parts are congruent, then the whole thing's congruent. Or if they tell us the whole thing's congruent, then we can set each part equal to one another.